A boss called Tony Laughn is inside his office at a new hospital. He looks at his computer on his desk and seems to be happy that there's another patient coming in. And he says, "We have a new technology to make me better, no matter the injury they suffer." Meanwhile, Sam sits on his bed in his ship while it's in flight in space, taking a break from fixing his portal detector device, and there's no sign of activity. Sam stood up and walked towards his console. He pressed the button and Sam's ship landed somewhere. Sam fancied a break, so he opened the door. He walks out. Sam is in Newcastle, England, Earth, in his universe. Sam looked at the advert poster of a new hospital in Newcastle that's been opened. Sam was impressed that the hospital has new technology and that can help fatal injuries. He said, "I love the sound of that technology. I wish it was like that after when that monster bin sprayed me with toxin, driving me mad, and resulted me hospitalised, and even needed carers for a while, 8 years ago. Best one for me was Darren." Meanwhile, Lenny pulled over his car outside of his house at the estate, so he turned the engine off. He got out of his car. As he walks towards his front door, he pulls out his key, he opens the door and let himself in and shouted, "Tracy, I'm home." So Tracy walks into the sitting room. They have a conversation about her birthday party, and her sister Janet had a nasty car accident and she's in the new hospital. There's few people in the street injured, and paramedics from New Hospital put people to sleep and took them away in the back of the van. Sam sat on the bench watching the event. He looks on his phone, and what he noticed on his Facebook, that there's an allegation made against Tony Laughn for kidnapping and mutilation, but the rumours were denied. However, it got Sam interested in paying the hospital a visit. 4 gang in the warehouse wearing black, and they have guns. With one of them is a woman and her name's Michelle, and the rest are men called Dean, Mark and John. The gang were discussing what they believe about the allegations against Tony. They come up with a way in bringing Tony down. Sam arrived at the hospital. After the automatic door opens to let him in, he claims to the receptionist that he's the inspector and he wants to interview Tony, so the receptionist told him to wait. So Sam waited for 5 minutes. Then Tony arrived, so they both said hello and walked to Tony's office. Both sat down for an interview. So Sam asked about the allegation and the new technology the hospital has. Tony explained he wasn't doing anything bad. He's making people better. He also said the reason why no patients are out of the hospital because it took time to figure out the new technology and it was too disturbing for others to see. So after a long conversation, and Tony says there's nothing to worry about, Sam thanked Tony for his time and left. As Sam went outside of the hospital, he meets Lenny, who asked about Tony. So Sam explained that the technology is finding a way. It's 2020s, we're not quite there with the technology yet. Lenny mentions his wife's sister is in the hospital and he has a strange feeling. Sam is feeling that as well, then said, "It's just new technology, plus there's bad memories with the invasion of this planet." So they both walked away from the factory. Meanwhile, a paramedic called Colin Pack watches the patients wearing overalls and bandages on their heads on the ambulance stretchers getting wheeled inside another room. Then all of a sudden, there was a sound of machine and people screaming. Colin seems to enjoy what he's watching. Lenny brought Sam to his house and met Tracy, who's getting ready for the party, as she's wearing a dress. Sam admits that he's investigating the hospital and Tony. So Tracy told Sam about her sister's car accident, and she's in that hospital, and Sam has a strange feeling. There's patients in the hospital placed into the machine and the sound of screaming. At night, in WC Newcastle, there's balloons on the table, the walls are white bricks, and the floor is wooden. There's people drinking and having conversation, celebrating Tracy's birthday. Sam sat down outside looking at his phone, doing some research, as Tony has announced that the patients will be discharged tonight as they've gone better. Colin has got the van ready and said, "We've got many as it is." The van drives off. Tony says, "Let the future begin." Meanwhile, at the party, Sam managed to hack into the new hospital website on his phone, and he's not liking the technology. As he learns, there's some mind alternations, and the whole allegation of mutilation is true. Lenny arrived, asking if Sam's alright, and added, "Something seems to be going on with Armstrong Industries." Through the hedges, Michelle, Dean, Mark and John took cover, holding their guns and watching Tony's ambulance pulled over. The paramedics opens the back of the van. The gang are wondering what were they doing. Then all of a sudden, they noticed a group of silver men marching down with loud stomp. The gang were horrified, so they quickly ran off. Sam and Lenny walked back inside the building. Sam was very curious about the whole thing with Armstrong Industries, but all of a sudden, the sound of stomps from outside faded in. Sam and Lenny ran to the window to take a look, and then Sam said, "Oh no, not again." Lenny said, "Is that?" And Sam replied, "Yes, they're Cybermen." And then the glass windows smash as the Cybermen broke in, and people screaming as they're surrounded by Cybermen. Everyone stopped, so a man named Paul came up to one of them and said, "What kind of prank is this? This is a party, not a Doctor Who convention." Then Cyberman replied, "You will be upgraded. You will become like us." Then Paul said, "You're joking, right? I'm not coming with you. I'm not a Doctor Who fan." Then Sam said, "Don't, Paul." But Paul ignored Sam and then said, "What are you going to do if I don't cooperate?" Sam thought, "Uh-oh." And Cyberman said, "You will be deleted." Then Cyberman put his hand on Paul's shoulder, which electrocuted him to death. So everyone starts panicking and run. There are a few people being grabbed, electrocuted and killed. Sam, Lenny and Tracy gathered and trying to find a way out, but then Dean and Mark called for them from the window and said, "Come with us, quick!" Sam, Lenny and Tracy climbed out the window and followed Dean and Mark to get away from the building as fast as they can. There's more group of Cybermen stopping them from running, so they ran to the other side, and there's more Cybermen cutting them off. So Dean fires his gun at the Cybermen, but the bullets were bouncing off, and Sam stopped him and said, "Bullets don't work." And Mark replied, "He's right." So the group is surrounded by the Cybermen, and one of them said, "You are not compatible. You are not fit to be upgraded. You will be deleted. Delete, delete, delete." Sam has got his anti-time device on, and he shot a lot of Cybermen. Then Dean asked, "What is that thing?" And Sam said, "I'll explain later. Run!" Mark suggested, "Get in the black car." So everyone quickly ran to the big black car. They opened the door, sat down and closed the door while there's more Cybermen coming. John sat in the front next to Michelle as she's driving. Everyone else sat in the back. Dean asked again what Sam was carrying, and he said, "My anti-time device, one of my gadgets." Dean was happy that Sam has got a useful gun. However, Tracy was upset because her sister is in the hospital where Tony worked. Sam realised that the whole new technology in a new hospital that Tony used was to turn patients into Cybermen. The hospital is Cyber Factory. Sam introduces himself, as well as Lenny, Tracy and everyone else. Tracy wanted to go in the hospital and get her sister out. Meanwhile, Tony's inside his office talking to a Cyberman. He's happy to help, that the patients don't have to worry about being injured again now that they're upgraded. He goes on a microphone and tells Cybermen to take people into hospital for upgrade. Sam and the gang notice the Cybermen are taking people away. Dean was about to open the door, and Sam said, "Don't! No point getting all of us killed. There's not much you can do from here." Lenny asked, "What do we do? How do we stop the Cybermen?" Then Sam replied, "We'll go to the hospital, get Tracy's sister out, stop Tony, and find a way to destroy all Cybermen here. If there's a gateway portal, find a way to put them inside the Hooniverse. Dean thought Sam is mad. At the hospital corridor, Cyberman was grabbing Colin, so he struggled. He managed to pull himself out and ran off. Sam and the gang got out the car. They watched few Cybermen marching around the streets. Sam remembered the time he crash-landed in Parallel Earth. Mr. Loomis rebuilding Cybermen, a similar story to where the Doctor and his companions crash-landed on Parallel Earth, where John Lumic creates Cybermen. Although Sam acknowledged this is in Newcastle, not London for a change. As Sam rambles on, Lenny asks Sam what is he talking about. Suddenly, there are more Cybermen marching towards Sam and the gang, so everyone ran through the alley while Cybermen are chasing them. So John stopped to shoot at the Cybermen with his gun. Sam shouted, "No! The bullets don't work!" Then John said, "I'm buying you time! There's so many of them! Now run!" So everyone except John ran as he fires his gun. The bullets constantly bounce off, so the Cybermen walked closer and closer to John, then electrocuted him to death. Colin still hides around in the hospital corridor. He wants to report to Tony, so he ran to the door, but it was locked. But suddenly, Cyberman tapped Colin on the shoulder. He's electrocuted to death. Sam, Lenny, Tracy, Michelle, Dean and Mark walk up a hill to view Tony's hospital. Sam pointed his sonic screwdriver at the building, and he noticed that there's no Zeppelins this time. He also states, "We can moor John when Newcastle is safe, but now we need to move on and stop Tony and the Cybermen. Tony has taken control. He takes patients to be converted. We must go in and shut it down for good." Michelle suggested splitting up, and Sam said, "No, we'll go together. It's not as big as the factory. At least I'm armed. Trust me, to those who've seen that episode of Doctor Who, you'll understand why. Plus, I've been through a similar situation back on Parallel Earth. I know how it goes." So Mark said, "Yeah, but at least you, Dr. Rose and those preachers succeeded." And Sam said, "I defeated Cybermen many times before. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. There's not much time to argue. We got people to rescue and enemies to defeat." So the gang enters through the back door in the hospital into the dark corridor. So Sam turned on the lights and the corridor was clear. No one is feeling safe, and Sam said, "Keep an eye out. We're definitely not safe. Stay behind me." Meanwhile, at the main conversion area of the hospital, the machines activate and many unfortunate humans were forced inside by Cybermen. The machinery swoops down from the above with sharp cutting equipment. Sam and the gang encountered a couple of Cybermen, so Sam fired his anti-time device at a few of them. So Tony stands in front of a big metal door in his office that slid open, and inside reveals to be Cyber Controller. Tony was honoured to meet the controller and would happy to team up, but the Cyber Controller said, "You are proved useful, Tony. Now you will be upgraded." Then Tony said, "No, not me. I'm a CEO of this company. I don't need upgrading." So the controller said, "Then you are not compatible. Delete." So Cyber Controller electrocuted Tony to death. Sam and the gang carried on walking through the corridor, and then suddenly a Cyberman appeared behind and electrocuted Dean to death, and Michelle shouting, "No!" Cyberman looked at Tracy and said, "You are Tracy?" And Tracy said, "Yes, I'm Tracy. How do you know my name?" Then Cyberman said, "I was Janet. I was your sister." Tracy and Lenny were horrified, and Tracy shouted, "This is impossible!" But the Cyberman confirms this. So Sam killed a Cyberman with his anti-time device. Then Tracy said, "Why did you do that?" And Sam replied, "I'm sorry, I had to. Your sister is now a Cyberman." Then Tracy interrupted, "Don't say that." And Lenny said, "Sam, if you can give her a minute." Then Tracy said, "No, it's alright." My sister is already gone. We've got to destroy Cybermen before they kill everyone. Michelle said, she's right. So the gang continued walking through a corridor, and Sam shooting his anti-dime device at the Cybermen. Sam and the gang have spotted the conversion area, watching people getting converted. So Tracy tells Sam to shoot them, and Sam said, I can't risk a commotion. It'll endanger us all. We need to find a way to shut off all the Cybermen here for good. So the team found Tony's office, but no sign of him. But the big door opens. Sam looked as if he'd seen a ghost. There was Cyber Controller and said, This is the future, I am its creator. Then Sam admired the Cyber Controller redesign, with glowing eyes and a transparent brain case. Cyber Controller is aware of Sam, as well as the Doctor, and also admitted that he has an army. If anyone resists going to hospital, they will be deleted. Sam asked what happened to Tony Laughn, and Cyber Controller answered that he was no further use. Sam was not surprised. Cyber Controller offered Sam a life without emotions, so he wouldn't have to feel devastated losing his friends. But Sam said, I'd rather die. Cyber Controller said, that'll be arranged. Then Sam said, that's only for me to take. And Cyber Controller said, my army are owning the planet. You have no means of stopping me. So Sam took his mobile phone, and Tracy said, not a good time for phone call. Sam said, I need to phone my family and friends a goodbye before I die. Lenny was confused and said, you can't be serious. We haven't failed, have we? I'm afraid so, said Sam, dialing his phone, then said, to make things better is by doing this. So he plugged his phone into the console, sending the code he was writing across the cyber system all over the hospital and in Newcastle Street. The Cybermen's inhibitor shuts down. They see each other and realise what they have become. Overloading from the emotions they start to feel, then Cybermen begin to malfunction and collapse, some even exploding. Cyber Controller asked, what have you done? Then Sam replied, I've seen a lot of ways the Doctor defeated. You think I wouldn't know anything? I return them their emotions, Cyber Controller. They can see themselves, and it's killing them. So Sam, Lenny, Tracy, Mark and Michelle headed through the door, ran through the corridor while Cyber Controller is chasing them. The gang headed through the exit, dodging the dying Cybermen. Suddenly, Tracy gets electrocuted by Cyber Controller. Lenny shouted, no! And Sam pulled him away and said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. Come on! So everyone found an emergency exit. The door opened. Everyone ran as far as they can. They stood and watched the hospital blown up. Lenny grieves over Tracy's death, as Michelle comforted him. Later in the night, Sam, Lenny, Michelle and Mark walked to Sam's ship to say goodbye. Sam asked everyone what will they do. Mark said, me and Michelle will clean out the remains of Cybermen, tell the authorities what happened, and defend the Earth. You can tag along if you want, Lenny. So Lenny said, thanks, I'll think about it. First I need to arrange for my wife's funeral. Thanks, Sam, for helping us. I know it wasn't your fault. Sam replied, don't mention it. You guys might want to watch this. Sam went inside his ship. He closed the door, pressed the button, and his ship faded away. Everyone was mind-blown what they just saw, right in front of them. Sam's ship materialised inside Sam's flat, in the sitting room. So he opened his ship door, he walked out, then after he closed it, he switched the kettle on. In Newcastle, Michelle and Mark got into their car and drove off. They will remember Tracy, Janet, Paul, Dean and the others who didn't survive the Cybermen invasion of Newcastle. Sam got his cup of tea made and sat down on his sofa in his flat, drinking it. Meanwhile in Newcastle, Lenny sat down at the bench. The woman came up to him to get his attention, and it was Kate from Armstrong Industries, the same woman who asked Trent about Sam after the survival from Ireland with dinosaurs. As Lenny is confused, Kate said, we have a reason to believe that you're in serious danger when Sam's around. We need help on searching on where he is.